Most women are taught to smile before they're taught to speak. Taught to be pleasing before they are taught to be powerful. Before they ever understand their own desires, they learn how to suppress them, quiet urges wrapped in soft manners, ambition dulled beneath social grace. But underneath the polished exterior, something ancient stirs. A silent rebellion of the soul, the yearning to become whole, not just liked. And so, some women begin to wake up. Not suddenly, not all at once, but like the slow burning of a forest long suppressed, inevitable, wild, and consuming. These women do not seek happiness in the way others define it. They do not belong to the world's blueprint. No, their joy is not performative, it is primal. Earned. Unearthed from the dark chambers of the self where the shadow lives. The happy, confident woman is not untouched by pain, she has befriended it. She does not glow because life was kind to her. She glows because she walked through fire and refused to come out ash. Carl Jung once wrote, "Only the paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life." And in these women, the paradox breathes. They are soft and sharp, nurturing yet unyielding, wild but wise. The feminine that blooms in them is not one of obedience, it is the sacred feminine, the mother, the warrior, the priestess, the queen. Do you know what it takes to become her? It begins in the silence of betrayal. In the wound no one sees but she feels deeply, when her needs were dismissed, when her dreams were laughed at, when her body was claimed by others before it belonged to herself. And for a time, she shrinks. She plays small. She makes herself digestible, palatable, sweet, hoping the world will finally love her if only she becomes less of herself. But life, in its brutal mercy, does not let her stay asleep forever. There is a moment, maybe in heartbreak, maybe in motherhood, maybe alone in a room where the mirror shows a stranger's face, where she realizes, this is not living. This is survival in disguise. And so, the descent begins. This descent is sacred. In Jungian psychology, it is the necessary confrontation with the shadow, the dark, hidden parts of the self we exile in order to be accepted. The rage she was told not to feel. The ambition she was told was too much. The sensuality she was told to fear. The voice she was told to lower. These fragments of her lie buried beneath layers of social conditioning, waiting. And when she is ready, when life finally breaks the lie, she does not rise. She goes deeper. She stops pretending. She starts asking questions that unsettle others. She says no without apology. She dares to disappoint. And with every reclaimed boundary, every hard-won truth, she begins to remember who she was before the world told her who to be. Some people will call her cold. Others will say she's intimidating. But what they really mean is, she no longer fits inside their projections. You see, the happy, confident woman has stopped carrying the emotional weight of others just to be liked. She no longer dances on eggshells to keep the peace. She has integrated the shadow, and in doing so, has become unpredictable. Alive. Whole. You may not recognize her immediately. She's not always loud. She doesn't always post her growth for public approval. Her joy is not an advertisement. It is a quiet revolution. It lives in her gaze, steady, unbothered, sovereign. It lives in the way she walks into a room and doesn't seek permission to take up space. It lives in the way she does not need to be chosen, because she has already chosen herself. And that scares people. Because control is easier when a woman doubts herself. When she believes she's too emotional, too needy, too sensitive, too loud. But when she stops shrinking? When she sees through the roles she was cast in the good girl, the people pleaser, the martyr, something shatters. And what rises in its place is not a version of her. It is her. So now, look closer. She isn't happy because life gave her less hardship. She's happy because she stopped abandoning herself. She's confident because she stopped outsourcing her worth to people who never knew how to love her depth. She doesn't chase status, applause, or male validation. She chases freedom, the rare kind that only comes when you are no longer afraid of who you really are. She has learned to sit in silence without reaching for a distraction. She has learned to say, "This is not enough," even when it means walking away from everything familiar. She has cried in the shower, in her car, in the middle of the night, and then gone to work with fire in her eyes and no one the wiser. She is not fragile. She is forged. And perhaps now you're beginning to see it, that true feminine strength is not found in perfection or politeness. It is found in the willingness to be misunderstood, to be fierce, to be wild, to be deeply human and yet unashamed. The world may not applaud this woman. But the world cannot move without her. But the journey does not end with awakening, that's merely the storm that breaks the illusion. What follows is even more profound: reconstruction. The woman who has seen the truth must now learn how to live it. She must learn how to walk through a world that once applauded her obedience, now suspicious of her clarity. And in that space between liberation and loneliness, she forges something rarer than confidence, she forges presence. This is the quiet superpower of the integrated woman. She no longer performs. She no longer shapeshifts to soothe fragile egos or entertain small minds. Her presence is not a performance, it is a statement. A resonance. She does not demand respect, she embodies it. And those who cannot meet her depth will mistake her stillness for arrogance, her silence for superiority. But they are wrong. She is simply done explaining herself. Jung called this the individuation process, the lifelong work of becoming who you truly are beneath all that you were told to be. It is not self-improvement. It is self-reclamation. It is not about being better, it is about being whole. This is the path she walks now. A path with no applause, no shortcut, no safety net. Only mirrors. Each person she meets becomes a reflection of the parts of herself she has yet to integrate. Every conflict a portal. Every love a lesson. Every rejection a redirection. And yes, she still feels. Oh, how deeply she feels. But no longer does she drown in the tides of emotion. She becomes the shore. Her emotions are no longer enemies, they are messengers. She listens to her anger now, does not shame it. She holds her grief like a sacred right. She honors her joy without guilt. This is emotional sovereignty, not numbness, not detachment, but mastery. Can you sense the difference? She is no longer ruled by the past, but neither does she deny it. She knows that every version of her, the girl who tolerated too much, the woman who begged for crumbs, the soul who forgot her own name, they all served her. She does not hate them. She thanks them. They were chapters, not failures. And now, with each breath, she writes a new one. Watch how she speaks, slow, intentional, without needing to fill the silence. Silence, to her, is not empty. It is sacred. A place where truth lives. She no longer overshares to gain connection. She no longer softens her edges to make others comfortable. If her truth unsettles you, she trusts that discomfort will teach you more than her compliance ever could. And she no longer confuses chemistry with compatibility. She does not confuse attraction with alignment. She has learned to wait not in desperation, but in discernment. She does not date to feel worthy. She already is. She does not crave rescue. She rescued herself. And now, she is uninterested in anything that threatens the peace she fought to find. Some will say she's too picky. Too guarded. Too much. But the truth is, she is just no longer starving. When you feed your soul consistently, you stop settling for crumbs. She no longer needs someone to complete her. She only desires those who meet her in wholeness. And if that is rare, so be it. She has made peace with solitude. Because solitude is not loneliness when it is chosen. It becomes sanctuary. And when she loves, when she truly, deeply opens her heart, it is not with desperation, but devotion. Not because she needs, but because she chooses. She does not give herself away, she invites others in. She knows her love is not light, it is fire. It will warm you or burn you, but it will never leave you unchanged. So ask yourself, have you dimmed your light just to be held? Have you silenced your soul for the comfort of belonging? Because she used to do that too. But not anymore. Now, she belongs to herself. Her identity is no longer held together by others' opinions or roles she's forced to play. She has stopped explaining her value. She simply lives it. And in doing so, she teaches others, not with words, but with her being. This kind of woman cannot be faked. She is not born from trends or empowerment slogans. She is born from the ashes of every betrayal, every breakdown, every moment she thought she couldn't go on, but did. And her joy? It is not naive. It is earned. It is the smile of someone who knows the cost of peace and paid it willingly. To the untrained eye, she seems unbothered, detached, aloof. But what they fail to see is that her detachment is not distance, it is discernment. It is the sacred boundary between her soul and the chaos of a world that once demanded her sacrifice. She no longer plays the role of the savior, the fixer, the emotional sponge. She lets others carry their own burdens now. Not out of coldness, but out of clarity. To love does not mean to abandon the self. And here lies the paradox again, she is more compassionate now than ever before, but not in the ways that deplete her. Her compassion is fierce. Clean. Rooted in respect, not martyrdom. She will listen deeply, but she will not let you drown her. She will hold you, but she will not carry you. If you ask her to shrink so that you can feel big, she will walk away not because she lacks love, but because she finally has love for herself. You see, the happy, confident woman has unearthed the golden truth buried beneath generations of feminine suffering. Your power lies in what you no longer tolerate. Not in what you attract. Not in what you endure. But in what you choose to release. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And so she did the terrifying work of meeting herself in the unconscious. She pulled back the veil. Faced the patterns that kept repeating, the abandonment wounds, the self-erasure, the need for validation dressed up as love. And she said, no more. No more calling it chemistry when it's actually trauma. No more calling it loyalty when it's actually self-betrayal. No more calling it love when it's only survival. She no longer writes poems for people who cannot read. She no longer bleeds to prove she can feel. The little girl inside her, who once cried out for someone to notice, she is held now. Not by a partner. Not by a parent. But by the woman she became. And what power there is in that. Now, she creates. She builds. She plays. Not for approval, but for expression. Her work is no longer driven by the fear of being forgotten, but by the joy of simply being. Her voice, once filtered through politeness, now carries the weight of truth. She will not raise it often, but when she does, it echoes. She doesn't seek to dominate. She seeks to liberate. Herself first. Then others, if they choose it. Look at the way she honors her body now, not for how it looks, but for how it feels. She no longer sees it as a project. It is a temple. A vessel. A compass. She eats when she is hungry. She rests when she is tired. She moves not to shrink, but to celebrate. She does not chase youth. She chases vitality, the glow that comes from living in alignment. And still, she is not perfect. That word has no home in her vocabulary anymore. Perfection was a cage built by those who feared her wildness. She lives now in integrity, not performance. She admits when she's wrong. She apologizes with humility, not shame. She learns, she unlearns, she evolves, not for applause, but for truth. Even her relationships have changed. She no longer clings to people out of fear of being alone. She no longer attaches her identity to being chosen. She knows now, not everyone can hold her depth. Not everyone will understand her path. And that's okay. She is no longer in the business of convincing. She is in the practice of aligning. And when she walks away, because yes, she will, it is not an act of drama, but of devotion. Devotion to peace. To self-respect. To a life where her spirit is not diluted to keep others comfortable. And the space she leaves behind? It will haunt those who mistook her softness for weakness. Who thought her silence was permission. who assumed she would always stay. But she has outgrown staying in places that ask her to disappear. This is what liberation looks like. Not loud, not angry, not bitter, but sovereign. Sacred. Still. And while others chase status, aesthetics, and empty validation, she chases meaning. Depth. Reverence. Her happiness is not a performance, it is a vibration. Her confidence is not a costume, it is bone deep. And the woman who walks with that kind of truth? She is unforgettable. Not because she demands attention, but because she radiates presence. There comes a point in the woman's journey where even love, once her holy grail, no longer defines her. She no longer seeks it like water in a desert, because she has become the well. In her past life, the one she's burned behind her, love was often synonymous with sacrifice, with shrinking, with staying quiet in rooms that suffocated her truth. But now, love must rise to meet her. It must carry depth, self-awareness, and sacred intent. Otherwise, it cannot stay. She is no longer interested in romantic highs that crash into confusion. She seeks resonance. She seeks the man who has wrestled with his own shadow, who is not afraid of hers. A man who doesn't need to control her to feel strong. A man who does not mistake her confidence for competition. Because she will not dim. She has dimmed for the last time. To love this kind of woman, the happy, confident woman who has walked through her own internal underworld, is to hold both her fire and her silence. To understand that her joy is not an escape from pain, but a conscious rebellion against it. She doesn't want to be tamed. She wants to be understood. And she will not give her heart to anyone who hasn't done the hard work of knowing his own. Because she has become that which she once searched for, a safe place to land. She is not soft for just anyone. That softness is earned. And when she gives it, it is the most sacred of gifts. Because she has learned to protect herself, not with walls, but with discernment. She knows now, love without respect is illusion. Intimacy without emotional responsibility is exploitation. She will not be a mirror for someone else's unhealed wounds. She will not be therapy for those who refuse to grow. This is not cruelty. This is consciousness. And the world may whisper that she is too much, too opinionated, too aware, too wild, too free. But what the world really means is, she can no longer be controlled. Not by fear. Not by flattery. Not by the promise of belonging. She has made peace with her aloneness, and so her connections are no longer born of desperation, but of alignment. Watch how she walks, not fast, not frantic, not chasing anything. She moves like a woman who knows everything meant for her will arrive without force. Her presence says, I am already home. And the ones who come near her now? They come not to complete her, but to share the fire. Not to possess her, but to witness her. And when she falls in love, and she does, deeply, fearlessly, it is not with illusions. She sees clearly now. Love, to her, is not escape. It is a meeting. Of two whole beings, unafraid of truth, unafraid of mirrors. It is conscious, awake, alive. And if it fades? She lets it go without clinging. Because she has already learned, losing someone is not the same as losing yourself. She knows her worth now. It is not loud, not defensive, not proved. It simply is. Like the mountain, like the ocean, unmoved by passing winds. She is rooted. And in that rootedness, she has become magnetic. Not for everyone, but for those who carry the same fire. She no longer fears aging. Wrinkles, softness, silver hair, these are not signs of decline to her, but of evolution. Each year, each scar, each heartbreak, a bead in the necklace of her becoming. She wears her life. She does not apologize for it. Her beauty is not commercial. It is cosmic. And to be near her is to feel your own potential rising, because she no longer shrinks for others, and in doing so, gives you permission not to either. She no longer performs happiness. She embodies it. Not as a constant state, but as a deep knowing, I am enough, even when I am not everything for everyone. She can cry without shame. Rage without apology. Laugh from the belly, not from the throat. Her emotions are no longer filtered. They are fluent. And so is her truth. You may not always like it, but you will feel it. Because she no longer silences herself to maintain the peace. She is the peace. And still, she is ever becoming. Ever deepening. Ever unfolding. The work never ends, and she no longer expects it to. But now, the work is no longer suffering. It is sacred. It is hers. And with every breath, she claims more of herself. Not for the world. Not for applause. But because she finally understands. The most radical act of a woman in a world that profits from her doubt is to believe in her own wholeness. And in that wholeness, there is a silence the world cannot touch. A stillness that cannot be stolen. No achievement, no man, no title, no number in a bank account can give it, because none of those things created it. It was born from within. From the dark night of the soul where she sat alone with her brokenness, without distractions, without escape. Where she heard the terrifying truth echo inside her, no one is coming to save you. And instead of collapsing, she rose. She became the architect of her own salvation. Brick by broken brick, she built a self that could not be burned. A foundation rooted not in roles or approval, but in essence. And this, above all, is what sets her apart. She has stopped waiting. For permission. For validation. For rescue. For someone else to finally recognize what she knew all along, that she was always more than enough. She stopped trying to be understood by people who benefit from her confusion. She stopped trying to be liked by those who only valued her when she was convenient. She no longer performs smallness to earn a seat at anyone's table, she builds her own. Do you see what that means? It means she is free. Not in a rebellious way, but in a holy way. Her freedom is not the absence of responsibility, it is the refusal to carry what was never hers. Guilt that was projected. Shame that was inherited. Expectations that were designed to domesticate her wildness. She has returned them all. She no longer confuses chaos with passion. She no longer interprets mistreatment as a test of her worth. She doesn't explain why she left. She doesn't announce her healing. She simply moves in a different frequency now. One where self-betrayal has no place, where clarity reigns, and where peace is non-negotiable. Her confidence is not charisma. It is certainty. The certainty that she is allowed to exist as she is. That her boundaries are holy. That her intuition is real. That her time is precious. She no longer over-explains, overextends, or over-apologizes. She knows now, when you know your value, you don't fight for your place. You walk in it. And it is here, in this sacred posture of self, that everything begins to shift. She attracts, not chases. She speaks, not pleads. She releases, not clings. She receives, not begs. Her life becomes a mirror of her internal alignment. The drama fades. The chaos subsides. What remains is what matches her vibration, depth, truth, integrity. And she accepts nothing less. People may try to pull her back into the old patterns, not out of malice, but out of habit. They will test her silence. Challenge her clarity. Try to awaken the girl she used to be, the one who needed to be needed. But she does not bite the bait. Because she knows now, not every invitation is worth answering. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every emotion requires explanation. This woman, the truly happy, confident woman, does not seek power. She is power. She does not seek to prove. She simply is. Her presence is her protest. Her joy is her revolution. Her peace is her legacy. And when you look into her eyes, you don't see performance, you see presence. You see history. You see rebirth. There will always be those who misunderstand her. Who project their own limitations onto her expansiveness. But she has stopped trying to explain herself to those committed to misunderstanding her. She has learned that freedom sometimes means being the villain in someone else's story. And she's okay with that. Because she knows her own. Her story is one of becoming. Of breaking cycles. Of facing shadows. Of choosing truth over comfort. Of choosing herself, again and again and again. And now she walks differently. Not just because she survived, but because she remembered. She remembered that her soul was never meant to be silenced. That her voice was never meant to be tamed. That her love was never meant to be currency in a transaction for worth. She knows now, she is not here to fit in. She is here to rise. To burn. To bless. To break through every illusion that told her she was too much or not enough. She is no longer the woman who waits. She is the woman who chooses. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.